The Tarkov wipe has brought me back from the dead and also pissed off a whole lot of people. I've sought out the community's greatest minds on both the Tarkov Reddit and Twitter and have seen some truly intellectual takes, some of which I will address in this video. But on the whole, what are my thoughts about the so-called hardcore Tarkov wipe? Personally, I like about 90% of it, but what did they even do? Well, the wipe has brought Tarkov's greatest enemy yet. That's right, the crippling debt saddled upon the working man by corporate interests. Everything costs about twice as much. You want to buy a P.A.K.A? 45,000 rubles. You want to buy a bottle of water? 20,000 rubles. Some things have stayed relatively consistent. For example, repair costs haven't gone up all that much, but unfortunately, end raid healing was not spared. Walking into therapist's office is like walking into any American hospital without health insurance. You're better off just going home and hoping the problem takes care of itself. Speaking of insurance, gear insurance is now only available through Fence and is so damn expensive that all it takes is one muscle memory misclick and you have just saddled your grandkids with generational debt.
Fuck no, for $300, bro? Fuck no.
Insurance is $44.
Oh,
my God.
Wait, Levi, how much did you just spend on insurance?
44.
No, you just spent 400K.
What?
Go back to your stash.
That's 400,000.
You just spent 400,000 rubles.
They claimed to have reduced the cost of insurance since the start of the wipe. However, insuring a stock M4A1 costs 120,000 rubles. So, I don't really believe that. Further handicapping your wallet is the fact that items only sell to traders for about half their usual value. I don't know what kind of GameStop trade-in rates mechanic has adopted, but he will buy your Meta M4 for about 62 cents and a donut shop punch card. Also, no flea market. I'm just gonna rip through the rest of these changes because I doubt I'm the first person to talk about them. Traders are now time gated so that everyone is still at base level gear. You can't put any ammo or meds into your secure container with the exception of injectors. Scavs have a 45-minute cooldown timer. Car extracts are 40,000 rubles per exit, and also you can't put those rubles in your secure container, so if you die, you're just gonna lose them all. Long story short, everything is harder to get and easier to lose. But honestly, I still quite like the wipe, and it's not just because of the Hawaiian t-shirt, though that does factor in heavily. First, let's talk about time-gated traders. In previous wipes, people would have the flea market by the end of day 2 and max-level traders by the end of week 1. Turbo Sweats would grind for 63 hours straight and have meta MDRs before half the community even had trader level 2. Gear that was supposed to be the best in the game became the standard, and you saw it all the time. Half the weapon sandbox just went unused. Time-gated traders slows this down and makes more weapons viable for longer. Now, I have seen some people criticize this as artificially slowing progression, and my response to that is, no shit, Sherlock, that's kind of the entire point. Instead of just buying the best gear in the game, now if you want something good, you actually have to run around and scavenge for it, making it that much more valuable. Finding anything in raid, whether it's a weapon, ammo, armor, or a gun attachment, has a much bigger impact now. Hunting bosses is incredibly viable. They have a 100% spawn rate and are the only consistent source of good ammo, armor, gear, and weapon attachments. I hunt Glucar whenever possible, primarily because of his voodoo. Basically, any magnified optic is worth its weight in gold right now, even the terrible ones. A proper LPVO is such a massive advantage in Escape from Tarkov right now that finding one is an incredible feeling. In general, building a weapon is so much more gratifying because you actually have to scrounge for the parts. Before, all you had to do was build your weapon in the preset menu and then click 2 buttons to buy everything you need off the flea market, and there you have it. The process of going through several raids and pulling parts wherever you can and saying, oh, I can put this on my gun, is a much more interesting experience than clicking 2 buttons. It has led to some very interesting gun builds and situations as people are forced to use whatever they have at their disposal. At one point, I was forced to use a mutant with iron sights to snipe somebody. I have never done anything like this before because why would you unless you have to? Never in a million years would I use the carry handle on an M4 to mount an optic if I had any other choice. But right now, I don't have any other choice, and this build has served me surprisingly well. I love this new dynamic of using whatever you have at your disposal, purely because that's the only thing you have at your disposal. The same can be said for ammo. It used to be that you would buy ammo for whatever gun you wanted to run. Nowadays, it's whatever gun you have ammo for, that's really your only option. It has brought such a variety to the different weapons that I see people using that it makes each fight more unique and interesting. Now let's talk about the unholy combination of money being hard to get and insurance that is so expensive it's basically unusable. I also like what this has done. Kind of. In other wipes, anyone who had a vague idea of what they were doing could very quickly farm the gross domestic product of a small country. Dying and losing gear really didn't mean anything because it was so easily replaced. I was a PvP junkie who'd happily charge into a gunfight like a meth head brawling for his scrap of copper. Many instances, I knew I couldn't win, but it didn't really matter that much. So long as I got one kill, I would be satisfied, and if I lost my gear, whatever, I could very easily just buy another gear set. Death was an inconvenient loading screen rather than an actual issue. Nowadays, because I can't just buy another gear set or get everything back that I had lost with money, I have to very much consider if a risk is worth taking. All of these things come together to emphasize one thing, and that is desperation. You don't have the best gear, you don't have enough ammo, you don't have enough meds, and death means losing all of the gear that you actually had to work for. Desperation is exciting. Being neck deep in scavs and having to throw your teammate a gun because he is completely out of ammo is a 10 out of 10 experience. It's exhilarating and is the first time I've felt like this in Tarkov in a hot minute. That being said, there are some problems. First off, the bugs. I would say this wipe is actually very, very stable. I have not encountered that many issues. However, when you do die to a bug, that is an exercise in patience that would test a Tibetan monk. I love the hardcore elements, but not being able to ensure any of your gear and then losing a kit because you tried to vault something and ended up getting sucked into a metal wall locker is a dangerous happenstance for my drywall. Next is for the poor new players. If you aren't experienced with Escape from Tarkov, this wipe is absolutely not the wipe for you to try to learn. Learning Tarkov normally is a kick in the balls with a steel-toed boot. Learning Tarkov now with all the handicaps that are being placed on you is like strapping that steel-toed boot to the front of a Jeep Wrangler and then driving it into your nutsack at 83 miles an hour. Increased prices on traders does force you to scavenge more for gear, which I like, but I think these prices should only apply to gear you actually use, such as weapons, armor, helmets, ammo, stuff like that. Having to pay 2 million rubles for a scav junk box when it is already so much harder to make money in the first place is just debilitating. Arena players aren't going to have it so bad because they get that 1.5 million ruble stimulus check every so often, but for everyone else, this sucks. Especially since they doubled the amount of junk required to upgrade your hideout, having that much stuff just taking up stash lines is frustrating. Thankfully, those hideout items don't have to be found in raid anymore, so that's good, but can we just please take a moment and send up a prayer for our poor standard account gamers? They were already on the struggle bus, but now they're on suicide watch. But the biggest issue that I have with this wipe so far is the transit. You can't just load into any map you want. You can only go to factory, customs, or ground zero. If you want to go anywhere else, you gotta transit there. This isn't such a terrible thing now, but when quests on other maps become more common, it is going to suck. I don't want to have to run a customs raid just to eventually get to shoreline. Here's what will happen. You either spawn right next to the transit location, in which case, yippee, you can just head straight there and you get another loading screen after your previous one. Annoying. Or you spawn on the opposite side of the map of the transit that you need to be there, so now you have to either haul ass there or move slowly, and either way, you're probably going to end up dead, or you're going to end up with so much gear that transiting is really no longer a viable option. And when you do actually get there, the queue time is probably not going to be that good. I don't want to have an entire raid function as a loading screen to get where I eventually want to go. I get they want us to use the transit system more. I kind of like it, but if I'm trying to get a quest done, go to hell. On the whole, I like the wipe, but there are a few considerations. First of all, I think they should reduce the price on cases. If it doesn't directly impact gameplay and it's mostly just a quality of life thing, I really don't think that the cases need to be as expensive as they are, especially since they're already a huge money sink anyways. doubling the price is just not necessary. Transiting should be rewarded, but not required. Maybe add an XP multiplier that increases for each successive transit so that it can help you level up quicker or something like that. But just don't require it, especially if I'm trying to get a quest done, please. Ultimately, I like how this wipe is shaking things up. However, it is definitely not going to be for every player. If you are newer or a solo or just do not have the patience to put up with Tarkov's chicanery, then you might want to sit this one out. And that'll about do it. Most of the stuff is out of the way, so I should be back to a regular upload schedule, emphasis on should. Otherwise, I am live on Twitch right as this video goes live, so be sure to come say hi. And other than that, thank you so much for watching, especially all the way to the end, and I hope you enjoyed.